Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD on Wii U. You know, it's a strange thing trying to nail down exactly which Legend of Zelda game is my favorite when I'm asked. For years, it was the Ocarina of Time, and until the game was re-released on 3DS a few years back, and I found myself not enjoying it nearly as much as I remember. With all the uproar about the cel-shaded entry of the Wind Waker back in the day, I was okay with it, and when I replayed the HD version released on Wii U a while back, it was even better than I remembered. Majora's Mask re-release on 3DS gave me the same impression, as I enjoy darker stories these days, and the bizarreness that game pulled was incredible, especially when you play through thinking about the theory that Link is dead during the entire game. I mean, how do you judge your favorite? Is it the one that impacted you the most? One that you get to sit down and play at any time? So this brings us to Twilight Princess. I originally played through the game close to its release in 2006 on Wii, where they tried to tout the motion controls, including flailing around to swing Link's sword. Looking back at my review blog from that time, I'd given Twilight Princess an 84 out of 100, claiming it was dethroning Ocarina as my favorite Zelda. So taking away the bulk of motion controls and giving it an HD makeover and amiibo support should only make it better, right? So the Twilight Princess begins with Link, or whatever you choose to name him, in the village of Ordon. Some bad stuff happens, he dons a sword, and once again you go off to save Hyrule. Before Link can even leave the nearby woods, he is sucked into the Twilight Realm, where his Triforce Mark saves him from becoming an unattached spirit, and instead transforming into a wolf, where he meets Midna, a small, misshapen Twilight Dweller, who asks him for his help attaining 3 items from dungeons. This leads them into going for 4 more items from dungeons before a final encounter. So, basic Zelda plots really don't change a whole lot fundamentally. The gadgets of Twilight Princess really are a little bit different than the norm. The hook shot is changed to the claw shot, and this time Link can obtain 2, one for each hand, which makes it pretty fun. There's a new item called the spinner that he can ride like a skateboard and attack and hook up to pathways. I do wish the giant ball and chain had more uses, as it really isn't employed outside of its discovered dungeon. Link can also learn new abilities this time as he finds Howling Points and an older Hero of Time, which could quite possibly be the Link from Majora's Mask timeline. Dun dun! This adds some much needed moves to Link's repertoire, including a roll, round, backstab, a shield attack, and an over-the-top helmet crusher. Combat is fairly fluid, with the ability to lock onto an enemy using the left trigger. I kept trying to use the right stick while locked on to move between targets, and, well, it doesn't work. In order to switch targets, you have to let go of the trigger and click it again, and that'll highlight the next enemy in whatever tab order it decides to do. Usually, when you lock on in melee combat games like this, the camera will generally stay poised in a fixed position near your character. Twilight Princess caused me some issues because you backflip by holding away from the enemy and hitting A, jump attack by pressing toward the enemy and hitting A, and to jump to the side, you guessed it, you hold to the side and press A. A second press of the A button while holding to the side will start the roll for the rolling back attack. Now when the camera pivots away from Link, as the enemy and Link move, it can lead to some really bad jump attacks and rolls just from perspective. So while I am glad the motion controls are gone, we are left with the normal B press being a horizontal swing, and a vertical swing only being triggered by using first the Z targeting and then swinging, meaning you can't do a horizontal swing while you're locked on. So my favorite parts of Zelda games are always the dungeons. I love finding that new piece of gear, incorporating it in to navigate through the dungeon, and then discovering the way to kill a giant end boss with it. Twilight Princess doesn't disappoint, with thought-provoking but not Nintendo power-needing puzzles and hidden treasures. There are a few mechanics you're introduced to, and the rest are just iterations on that. One thing I don't like in this age of easiness is it seems half the dungeon rooms, when entered the first time, they'll show you the objective of the room, be it a door or a switch. I mean, I don't need to be shown the detail of what I need to do. That's part of the fun, is letting me figure it out. Now, what Twilight Princess also does well is incorporating combinations of gadgets to take down bosses half the time, which ups the required strategy even more. Now, if the game isn't difficult enough for you, you can play the game in Hero Mode, chosen at the beginning. Hero Mode makes Link take double the damage he normally would, and hearts to refill your life never drop from enemies, jars, or bushes. Really, this only made the beginning of the game difficult, as when you start with 3 hearts, and enemies can take up to 2 of them, it makes your lifespan rather short. Not to mention your time spent in wolf form is not really controllable at the beginning, and you can't use items like potions while in wolf form, nor do you have many bottles. By the time you're finding heart containers and have the game's 4 bottles, it's really just a task of remembering to fill your bottles before heading off to the next dungeon. Even then, with Uka, being able to teleport you out after she is found in each dungeon and return you to the place you used her, using potions inside is effortless. Also, when you die in a dungeon, you start in the room you entered from, so it's really not that big of a deal. I think a better challenge would be trying to not gather heart containers and do a regular playthrough with just the 3 starting hearts. I mean, I guess I could have amped it up more with the use of the Ganondorf amiibo, which makes enemies do 2 times the damage as well, which makes 4 times in hero mode, but that really just didn't sound like much fun to me. Also, Link and Toon Link amiibos can be used to replenish arrows once a day, and Zelda and Sheik amiibos can be used to replenish hearts. Now, there's an exclusive Wolf Link and Midna amiibo that can be used to open this Cave of Shadows, where you can go through dozens of floors and challenges as Wolf Link, and you get limited health pickups. You gather rupees as rewards, and you can obtain the huge wallet that can hold up to 9,999 rupees if you can clear all the challenges. One thing Twilight Princess added to the Zelda mix is more in-dungeon treasures. Although most were something simple, mainly rupees or bomb refills, there are also heart pieces to be found. But there's just something about getting the dungeon compass and seeing all these unopened treasure chests on your minimap that keeps you digging in to make sure you get them all. Twilight Princess, even back in the Wii GameCube version, requires 5 heart container pieces to make a new heart container, up from the traditional 4, which I kinda just assumed they did to give you more things to find. This Wii U HD version also includes Legend of Zelda stamps, which I don't personally get into the whole stamp Miiverse thing, but leaving the Wii U dashboard on idle for a minute and seeing a variety of messages pop up showed that I might be alone in that thinking. Without using any kind of walkthrough, I ended up with 32 out of 45 heart pieces and 23 out of 50 stamps. I refused to do the fishing game, and I'm sure some things probably come from that, but other than that I'm guessing there's just a bunch of hidden quests and caves I'm missing. Zelda quests have been a little bit more difficult to find since the Ocarina days without some kind of guide. But for those that enjoy the hunt, this does provide a lot of collectibles. Graphically, this HD remake looks pretty phenomenal. The texture upgrades and overall HD clarity did wonders for this installment. Aesthetically speaking, I love the world of Twilight Princess. While we keep with a lot of the staple enemies and creatures found in the N64 installments, the vast diversity in human characters as well as the disturbing Twilight creatures provide a ton of depth. Not to mention creepy little baby Mallow and his chain of stores. Now, there are some creepy moments as you use Wolf Link's sense to see spirits, but most of the world is best described as, bizarre. Now, while Skyward Sword was a much worse example of this, I really don't enjoy the hour to 2 hour long quote-unquote story that Zelda games have picked up over the last couple iterations. While I don't mind herding goats really, I don't know that Link has ever really reached the status of being anything more than a one-dimensional character that warrants this status quo pre-disaster treatment. I've grown to miss just walking down those stairs and being told it's dangerous to go alone and to start my search for that first dungeon. You know, it's been so long since I've played Twilight Princess that I don't know that I've retained enough information to give you a true compare and contrast to the original, but I did do a little research, and it looks like gameplay-wise there's pretty much no difference. As I mentioned, you can do things with your amiibo, and there's the hero mode, but everything else is pretty much the same. So if you were just looking for a reason to play through it again, you're set. You won't be offended. If you missed it the first time, I do highly recommend picking it up. I do kind of wish they'd quit spending so many development resources on remakes and focus on getting the new Zelda done. I mean, I'm sure it helps to have the income, and level of effort to income for producing some of these HD titles probably helps keep the Wii U production afloat, but in the 10 years since Twilight Princess was released, we've only seen one new console entry, Skyward Sword, and really wasn't a fan of it, personally. We're ready for a new one. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD is a 3D adventure game, and rated as such, it's an 85 out of 100, one more than I gave the original. This was kind of due to an increase in graphical fidelity, but a little bit more struggle with the play control. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.